Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm just, as you know, starting to get a little bit into a rhythm here. This time did take me an hour to get sorted, but still a work in progress. But thank you, everybody. Good morning to all of you. This is the best Monday morning of the week, and hopefully the best Monday morning of your life. We're going to make sure that we're all kind of here together and putting on the, you know what I discussed before, the positive filter, that we're going to discuss many of the things going on, especially going into the fall, because a lot of things that are going to be occurring that are relevant to what many of us have been concerned about for some time, and that the positive filter is the best way to look at things and do an analysis and to challenge people. And there's a reason for that. Somebody said to me, last week, I think I mentioned somebody was upset that I'm always looking at things from the positive view. And it's because to be angry is so easy. Like, we can all just be angry and frustrated and throw our hands up in the air and just say how much everything sucks. That's easy. What's difficult is sitting back and doing, a critical analysis and getting an idea of how we can view things, how we can deal with things properly. And you do that when you have a positive filter, and you can, sit back and figure out, okay, well, what are the good things that are going on? Let's acknowledge those, and then we'll deal with an itemized, to-do list or checklist. People who know me, I love checklists and to-do lists. And we go through all the small negative things one by one. A Prime Minister blackface. Krista, my grandfather, was definitely a real Nazi, Freeland, and all of those things, and, all the issues we're dealing with in Canada. And in the Western world, we'll be able to get through them better. Good morning, Robin, Ryan C7, not a Corvette. Good to see you guys, and thanks for joining. And if whoever wants, if you're here, you have a question, post in the comments. There is a little bit of a delay. Nerdy checklists. They're not nerdy. I have so many things going on in my life, and I like to keep things, as organized as possible, which sometimes is a bit of a challenge. You saw that during the Freedom Convoy. I'm not going to talk too much about checklists and to-do processes, because then we'll be here for an hour. But during the Freedom Convoy, because so much was going on, normally, I have a system and a structure with my OmniFocus and my calendar, my Trello, my project management boards, whatever. And it just went out the window. I couldn't even get to it to do my, my daily review and my weekly review, just because I was so burnt. I was so burnt out at the end of it, because the days were so long, and then there's so much. There was so much stuff to react to. You couldn't really plan things, which was part of the issue. Everything was, you get into that mindset of the disease of busyness. And that's purely what we were going through during the Freedom Convoy. It was a little bit frustrating. Good morning, Sonia. Robin's teasing, yeah, well, like always. See, Sonia agrees. And, anyone who doesn't understand the whole checklist thing, there's an amazing book. He did a TED Talk as well. The guy's name is Atul Gawande, wrote a book called The Checklist Manifesto. And I got to tell you, it is life-changing, so much that, what do I got here? I got a checklist of things I want to go through, if you can see it. So, checklists are great. They're awesome. So, if you're here, please, if you haven't already, like, share, subscribe. That's kind of how we'll get the word out, because I'm going to get into more detail of things about what has gone on and is still going on. With relations to the whole process of restoring, basic fundamental freedoms in Canada and Western nations. And this is another thing, when I speak about Canada, Canada's a template for what's going on in the rest of the world. And as we can deal with those issues in Canada, Many of the methods in which we deal with them in Canada, we can deal with in other countries, but there are differences, which is what I'm going to talk about today, specifically with regards to farmers. Sorry, my eyes keep darting. I've rotated the iPad a little bit, so I'm trying to get, I think I got the cameras pretty close together, so it doesn't look like I'm looking off into the sunset. So still working out the kinks. A bunch of you have started messaging me on Gettr. Great, I appreciate that. Please do. We can't depend on Twitter, which is kind of my main platform that I was using for a bunch of important reasons, but Gettr seems to be getting better and better over time and implementing some of the features that Twitter has, the big one being private messaging, which they've just launched. As well, probably the best platform, or what will become the best platform, is Locals. And if I'm on rotated on Locals, I can't see the comment. Oh no, I can see them here. Okay. So if you want to view on Locals and for it to be free, at least for the unforeseen future, go to honkingforfreedom.locals.com. You go to click on the checkout, and as though you're going to pay, and there's a link right in the middle that says it's plus promo code, so add your promo code. And if you add the promo code free, all capital letters, so FREE and the number 6, then it should allow you to join and watch live streams for free. And if I could figure out how I could view, oh, okay, I can see the comments. So if anybody's in what's it called, Locals right now, do me a favor, just send a quick comment, because I want to see how it pops up on Locals as we're doing the stream. Okay, so farmers. During the Freedom Convoy, one of the things that the fake news didn't report on anything accurately, but one of the many things that was going on was, do y'all have your coffee? I hope you do. They didn't mention that it wasn't just truckers. Like, it really started with truckers, but there was a massive amount of farmers in their tractors that were part of the convoys out west. They, if you get Streamlabs, you can stream on multiple. I'm doing that right now. So Ryan tells me if you get Streamlabs, you can stream to multiple platforms from a single device. Yeah, Ryan, that's an encoder. I was trying Streamlabs before. Oh, hey, Robin. Robin's on Streamlabs. Sorry, on Streamlabs, on Locals. I'm getting confused. Okay. Ryan, yeah, that's an encoder. I was using Streamlabs before, testing for other platforms, and it's OBS, so it gets quite esoteric and confusing to set up. It gets quite complicated. So I switched to Ecamm, and I've tried a few others, and it seems to be the best encoder. So right now, it's streaming to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and then the iPad is going to Locals. So, but I appreciate it, yeah. Okay, anyways. So, back to the issue of farmers. So during the Freedom Convoy, it was truckers, then farmers, and then in the Eastern Canada, the fisheries industry got involved as well. And one of the things that apparently occurred was the premier of, I want to say, Nova Scotia or New Brunswick, one of the two, I can't remember which one it was, I think it might have been New Brunswick, made it illegal, passed a law, because that's what we do, we just throw together laws. We don't like what's going on, just make a new law, right? It's amazing how quickly laws can get enacted when things are personally affecting our dirtbag politicians. So he just threw together another law that it's now illegal, or it was a significant fine, I guess, if you participated in any sort of convoy. And there are many people in the New Brunswick where they were in the fishing industry, but they have family in the trucking industry. So they saw what the government was doing with, again, just throwing together laws. And apparently what they did is they went out in their fishing boats and they blocked the ports into New Brunswick because everybody was getting fed up, right? This is not liberal versus conservative. So the conservatives don't get, with their messaging, and it's just infuriating when they say, oh, the liberals this, the liberals that, whatever. It's like, no, it's all of you. It's the political class. And some of you in the Conservative Party are good people, but they're not speaking honestly. Their messaging is not honest. It's cookie cutter out of a tin can. That's why they're trying to control all of these little proxy groups that developed during the Freedom Convoy. Why is BJ sideways on the desktop? Am I sideways? Because, okay. Hold on one second. So we got a technical issue. Thank you. This is exactly what I wanted you guys. Okay, so in the iPad, there's something wrong with locals. I guess I have to turn it. And let me try turn it and lower it. Damn, because that was going to solve my problem with the cameras being closer together. I told you this is not polished, that this is a work in progress, right? You guys understand that? Okay. Is that better? Am I not sideways? Am I now straight on the desktop? Because in locals, I don't know. If I switch it to landscape, which is what I wanted, perfect. Okay, oh, great. So that means on locals, I have to do. All right, so much for my idea of getting the cameras together. What if I do that? Okay. Sorry, everyone. This is not BJ Gettr production industry, so I apologize. Okay. So during the convoy, we had, truckers, farmers, and people in the fisheries that were really protesting en masse across the province. I heard at one point that there was, I think, 120 points of entry, I think, that were disrupted or something. I'm not sure if that's total throughout the period. And again, all of these different groups, we're all different groups of people who went and started their own thing. When they did the Ambassador Bridge, I have no idea who that was, but okay. And same thing in Coots, which was amazing when they're on the horses and they rode down to the border. You talk about the romanticism of the West. That was brilliant, and I can't believe the Canadian government is that stupid that they can't capitalize on that. But anyways, so I got to know some of these farmers and became close with a couple of them. Have become good friends, actually. And I reached out to them to say, okay, well, we see what's happening in the Netherlands, and we see what they're trying to do. At least they're making overtures about doing something similar in Canada. What's the real state of what the government's attacks on farmers in Canada? Are we really in danger of having our food supply negatively affected? Are our politicians that crazy and that extreme? Is that what's going on? So he explained a couple of things. He said, first, they introduced, same thing here, that they want nitrogen emissions reduced by 50% in Canadian farms. Now, remember, most of Canada is not inhabited. It's something like 97% of the landmass in Canada is not inhabited. That's why we pollute so little, because compared to when you factor in all the landmass that we have, we are carbon negative. We are a carbon negative country, which I guess is why they're now switching from nitrogen to carbon, because that argument is, and these are just duplicitous subverters who are just, for some reason, we know why, trying to destroy Western nations. So they apparently, and this may be wrong, this is what I've been communicated, that they introduced something like 50% nitrogen emission reduction. And this apparently has been going on for a couple of years now. I guess since the beginning of COVID is when maybe 2019, 2020 is when the government of Canada started introducing this, which is interesting because that's around the time where Dr. Evil, that Klaus Schwab, wrote his book, The Conspiracy Theory, wrote the book COVID-19, The Great Reset, and explained how COVID-19 is an amazing opportunity. So that's not a conspiracy theory. It's a book you can buy on Amazon. And he's quite crazy, actually. If you read the book, the guy's nuts. He's off his rocker. So we think, I mean, where's the direct lines? Unless we see direct email communications from people or money flowing, then of course it's going to be speculative. Just like many people who are convicted of murder, it's speculative, right? They put the pieces together and only one thing seems to fit. Well, it's the same thing with Klaus. Should I put Klaus and the word murder together in the same script? Wonder how YouTube's going to like that. Anyways, so this has been going on for a couple of years. And then my friend wrote a couple of notes on, we were communicating over Twitter. And he explained to me a little bit about the culture of farming in Canada, that there are different types of farmers. They're not always in agreement. They have different perspectives and whatever. But, you know, much like F. Trudeau became the unifying phraseology against the blackface regime for the truckers, it seems to be this targeting and harassment by government of farmers in Canada has become their unifying cause. But he said in general, he's a cattle farmer. He said in the cattle world, we have regular cattle farmers, like guys like me. I'm reading directly what he said. Then you have grass-fed guys that don't believe in feeding their cattle anything but grass and try not to use medication to treat sick animals. Then you have organic guys. They are the craziest ones of the group. They want everyone else out of business because we are destroying the planet. So there you go. The woke postmodernism brain disease has entered the farming world, or as Gadsad calls it, ostrich parasitic syndrome. That has now, by the way, an excellent book. You should all read it. Gadsad is a hero to many people. So that mindset has entered farming in Canada. And he goes on, he says, an example of this in real life is people like us that consume meat, milk, and grain. Then you have vegetarians, and then you have hardcore vegans. And that's the way farming works. There are three in broad sense, three groups, and they keep fighting amongst themselves who is better. And this is within the cattle world. And then he goes on to say the hog industry is mostly big companies. They don't care about backyard farmers, about what backyard farmers are doing, but they always cave to PETA. Interesting. The chicken industry is a quota system. They do their own thing. They hate backyard farmers because they think we spread diseases and take money away from them by selling eggs and butchered chickens. Okay, so there's like directly on the ground, but it kind of shows that like all industries, like all parts of society, there's a variety of different opinions and worldviews and whatever, but what's most concerning is the woke brain disease is now entering farming. That's concerning for me. Now, a little bit of a white pill. There's so much more to go on to this, but you know, I got yelled at yesterday because it was too long, so I just kind of want to make this short. Because again, we're just hanging out here, having coffee, and yeah, Sonia, the horses were awesome. Like, you know, if the government wasn't adversarial towards its people, and if the government had, you know, we say the seichel, the brains, to actually sit down and meet with people and talk with the truckers. I mean, you know, we invited Jerry Butts every day. Say, hey, Jerry, come down for coffee. Come hang out. Come talk to us. It wasn't adversarial. Come talk to us. But he didn't have the balls to do it because he's a coward, right? Like all of them. They're all friggin' cowards. So yeah, if they had the brains to meet with people, then maybe there could, like, the idea we had is an out for the government to claim victory, end their arrive can and their mandates, do the messaging together, and then everybody walks away happy and we get back to life as normal. But they're too crazy to do that, or too stupid. I don't know which one it is. But if they had done that, then maybe all of those fascinating, amazing videos of all the horses, or people riding their horses, the cowboys from Alberta, walking down to the border, maybe that could have become positive PR for the government of Canada. Maybe. But no, everything is adversarial because they're extremists, and extremists always double down on the same strategy, and they cannot, especially when they're sociopaths, as many people are in politics, sociopaths and psychopaths. They lack empathy, and they cannot look at a worldview beyond their own, right? Sorry if I'm not looking at the people in the locals. I'll look at you for a couple of minutes. I don't want to feel like you're ignored. You guys are going to be arguably more important. So a little bit of a white pill. They refused American crossing the border the other ways. It went well. Yes, it did. Honestly, it was amazing. I wish I had a direct contact with somebody in Alberta who was at Coots and saw all of that, because I think that alone, like we're finishing our book now. We're getting close to the end of the initial manuscript, working on the rewrite. I think there's a book in itself just on what happened in Alberta. And anyways, so do we have to worry? I think that's what we're all concerned about. Do we have to worry about the state of farming and the government's adversarial attacks on farmers in Canada? Well, first, I want to mention, I was talking with another farmer who's in agronomy farming, I think is how it's pronounced. That is, wheat and oats and stuff. If you've watched the the Amazon Prime show, Clarkson's Farm, shout out to Robin for getting that on my radar, and I've shared it with people in Colombia and Miami and in Canada, obviously. It's amazing, and that's the type of farming that Jeremy Clarkson does on his Prime special, and it really shows it's good for people in urban centers to watch that, to understand the nature of what farming is. That it's a business. It's all calculated in yields, and it's very complex, and the margins are not great, as Jeremy Clarkson learned. And I think it was an amazing thing for him to do, for people to get an understanding of what happens in rural communities. One thing I had mentioned in one of the interviews, and we talk about what's going on it's not just in Canada, in society all over the Western world. Me personally, I bring it down to one simple clash of societies, which is between people who live in urban centers and people who live in rural centers. And the people who live in urban centers, which has grown tremendously, they have completely different needs than people in rural centers. You don't need a bike lane on a regional road that's gravel, that's 3 hours from the closest town. But the people in urban centers will tell you we need bike lanes on every road. Like, no, they're different. They're completely different societies. And we have this draconian imposition of the will and the rules and the requirements of urban centers being opposed on rural centers or rural areas and rural communities. And that's been going on for 20 years now, but it's escalated and gotten worse and worse every year. And that's what you saw with the Freedom Convoy, because so many I'm one of the rare truckers who lives in a downtown city. Most of them are from rural communities. I don't know what the percentage is. It's a large percentage. Yes, there's other people who live in cities, but the vast majority come from from rural communities. And that's what the Freedom Convoy was. That was finally people in the rural communities speaking up against the authoritarianism coming from urban centers. And that's exactly what Trudeau and Jerry Butts and the Liberal Party is. That's the most hard left wing of urban centers dictating to the rest of the country. They have to be like them, but they don't understand they're the minority. In terms of territory, they're by far the minority of the country. So you have this minority sect that believes they can impose their will on rural communities, right? Global warming, pollution. Pollution's a big problem, and not so much in Canada. It's really not. Go to a Latin American city, and you'll see what real pollution is like. But these people don't travel, so they have no idea what the rest of the world is like. But if you're in, downtown Toronto, and you think, pollution or climate change are such, extreme concerns, they don't understand that in 97% of the country, pollution is not a concern because those people are out in the country. So, anyways, just a little side note. So, we're not as dire as the Netherlands, as I've been explained to, and if somebody wants to rebut that at any point, let me know. Send me Twitter, send me Gettr, send me a message on Locals. Tell me how I'm being misinformed by people in the industry, which is possible. We have in Canada, we have farmer advocacy groups in each province, and they're apparently quite influential, and they have significantly more power than the government itself. And that's, again, rural communities versus urban centers. The government in the urban centers, these advocacy groups are from those rural communities and are the voices in the rural communities. And in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario, the agricultural ministers themselves are farmers. They're all farmers. So there gets it becomes difficult for the government to impose values when their agricultural minister is against the policy, and all these advocacy groups in the province are against it as well. So we're a little bit more. Robin's telling me I'm buffering on YouTube. Thanks. It seems clear here. It might be on your end. I'm not sure. Right now here it's not. It's telling me I'm not buffering. So, but thank you. Everything seems to be clear on Locals as well, though. So we have a little bit of a stopgap with these advocacy groups in the provinces and the people who are in government, who are agricultural ministers. I mean, that's only for the provinces, but that holds a lot of weight because those are all. Yeah, and all provinces are important, but PEI is significantly smaller than than Alberta or Saskatchewan, right? So in terms of arable land and the amount of farming activity they have there. And he was telling me a funny story that they have these meetings on regular basis, especially to sound the alarm, since the government, the Trudeau government the blackface regime has been so crazy, batshit crazy, out of their minds, following all the edicts of Dr. Evil, Klaus Schwab, and trying to impose all these regulations. And so one of the farmers, I think he was in Saskatchewan, he's got, I'm told, 20,000 acres of farming land. He's one of the biggest, if not the biggest farmer in all of Saskatchewan. And he said, when there was a panel of all of them together and they were discussing, the representatives from the government were there and all that sort of stuff. And he said, he apparently got up and he said, I can handle drought, I can handle floods, I can handle a lack of crop, but the only thing I can't handle is you incompetent assholes. And he's referring to the government, as the government to farming is a more significant threat than any drought, any lack of crop yield, any sort of natural disasters. The government is the one that they're most afraid of. So I just thought that was interesting. So it seems to be, in terms of a white pill and farming in Canada, yeah, the government is trying to impose these regulations, which are being, they're stopped at day one, basically, because of the infrastructure. So we have a little bit of a white pill. That's why you don't see, people are asking, well, why aren't the farmers protesting like they are in the Netherlands? Is it because Doug Ford or Doug Fraud has imposed, in the case of Ontario, these draconian emergency measures? He's granted them to himself permanently, by the way, which is what a dictator does. Even though, can you imagine if that guy was prime minister, how screwed we would be? But, it's not because of that. It's not because of the government that they're not out protesting. It's because we have these stopgaps, as I'm led to believe, and that those stopgaps are working to push back against the government. But one of the things that they are concerned about is people need to understand in urban centers that less fertilizer means there's a food shortage. That leads to famine. If you get rid of fertilizer, you don't have food. So when you go to Starbucks and you get your little pesto sandwich and it's got eggs and whatever and it's got spinach and stuff, all of that didn't come from the Starbucks counter. That came from a farm and went through a distribution channel to get to your Starbucks. And the government is fucking with the distribution channel and the source of the food. They're going to starve you all. That's what's going to happen if they have their way, right? So they're concerned that people in urban centers need to understand this, that if they keep going with this hysteria and extremism, that you're not going to eat. Simple as that. Now, maybe some of us, myself included, could lose a few pounds. And by the way, anybody who's overweight, cut out sugar. Oh my God, it changes your life. I hope that wasn't too negative. I think that was kind of positive, right? I mean, we got these different cultures. We're trying to communicate to urban people. I'm an urban person, and hopefully some of you guys will help spread that message too. And we got to protect our farmers, right? It's so funny how people love these people who live in the city. They love the country so much. They go to the country, but they don't actually ever really interact with the people. And I would suggest to people, especially now, it's the time of summer, this is the time to get in your car, electric or gasoline, and go to small rural communities and in Ontario, well, across Canada, in Alberta, Saskatchewan, wherever you live, and get to know some of those people and just kind of get to understand their perspective and their worldview. I've never encountered people that were not nice in the country. Of all my years, my parents had a cottage. I was in the countryside every week, just about for much of my life. Growing up, and they're awesome. He has a few people who drank a little too much, but and were a little bit cliches. But those were rare. Okay, so questions, comments. If anybody has any questions, throw them in the live chat. And just a few things I want to go over that people. Again, just a mountain of questions that I've been trying to get through over the past several months. And I'm starting with the most recent ones and then slowly going back. This is an interesting question. How would you describe people in politics? That is, interesting. So I guess we can try to group them all together because there are similarities between the people who are elected and the behind-the-scenes people. The behind-the-scenes people, they're the ones who are dangerous. They're the ones who are the most crazy in terms of they've joined a cult. They tend to be psychopathic in nature or sociopaths, or they're just really crazy people. Not all of them, obviously. There's a few really good ones, and usually the good people tend to be on the higher ups, although that's a little bit different nowadays in a couple of parties. Yeah, somebody says Jerry Butts. Yeah, that's a good example. That really is. You know what they are? If you've ever seen the movie The Italian Job, they're Edward Norton. Remember Edward Norton's character? He's the one who stabbed everybody in the back, tried to shoot everybody and run off with the money. And then, and this is the part that's exactly like people in politics, then he went and all the material things that everybody else that he ran this heist with said they wanted to buy, Edward Norton went and bought. One guy wanted a house in some city, he bought a house in that city. Another guy wanted an Aston Martin Vanquish, he bought an Aston Martin Vanquish. because they're empty vessels, and some of them, it's just pure evil, some of them. And that's why you see, these conservative proxy groups, what they do is they'll basically steal ideas from each other. Like, I know somebody is going to see that I'm doing a live stream, and they're going to see once it starts to grow, and they're going to try and copy it. They're going to try and copy it and do the exact same thing. That's just the way they are. That's how the majority of people, the operators, let's say, within political parties are. They're really crazy. And it's for that reason, like right now, I've calculated there's at least $300,000 has been thrown around to different groups to make sure they don't speak to me. That's just because, why? I'm not part of the cult. I can't be controlled. And when they, like I said earlier with the Conservative Party, when they engage in bullshit, I'm going to call them out, just like I'm going to call out the libtards, right? I don't work for them, and I never will. So because of that, because I have a voice within this group, I'm a threat, so they're throwing around so much money. It's crazy. And personally, I don't care. I just do my own thing. They can do what they want. But that's what people in politics are like. Edward Norton from The Italian Job. Next, we have... this was in response to the long one. I'm going to look at this. I'll look at this one. This is a response to my Substack on Colombia. I did a Substack article on Gustavo Petro, who, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because he just, yesterday or today, is when he was sworn in as president of Colombia. And Colombia, unlike Venezuela, similar to Canada's issue with the farmers, there's a lot of stopgaps. The federal government in Colombia has very limited power. But if he starts changing the constitution, then, which I'm guessing he's going to, it's going to go down the direction of Venezuela. And in the article, I explain how he's done that with the help of the Trudeau government. Because when I was down there, one of the many times I was down there in 2015 or 16, I mentioned this in the article. A friend of mine asked what is the Liberal Party of Canada and why are they meddling in our politics? And that was to get communists in, like Gustavo Petro, elected via a peace deal and allow them to, and every Colombian I knew was against it. Everybody. So that gives you an idea of the mindset of the people who are running Canada, that they went and meddled in Colombian politics to get the communists integrated into their politics and then help them get elected. So my guess is that's Jerry Butts, but I'm not sure. Dean Blundell. I can't see who's writing it because the text is horrible on locals. Dean Blundell is a good example of that. He's the cross to Andy Lee. They all serve a purpose. Yeah, I've met Dean. I've spoken to him a couple of times this year, as he's friends of a friend of mine. I don't know. I saw some of the stuff he started posting, I don't know, 6 months ago, because I remember him from 102.1. And when, the news, the radio wasn't just politics all the time. They had something called music, right? And the music wasn't always infused with politics. So I don't know what happened. I don't know. I'm just not going to... I saw what was happening yesterday, and I was just like, you know what? I got too many people to fight with. I got enough to deal with, and just, all the best to everybody, and we'll see what happens. So anyways, this person says, Gustavo Petro is pure crap, garbage, maked up support... maked up, supported and endorsed by the media, dark, rich, powerful forces in the world. He's referring to what I just did. Gustavo Petro is pro-abortion, pro-free drugs, pro-insurrection. He's an ex-guerrilla leader, killer, drug dealer. Well, he's in that world, lawyer, and very good friend of Cuba and Venezuela. Gustavo Petro is the kind of Colombian Justin Trudeau is the kind of the Colombian Justin Trudeau, but pure, but physically more ugly. Well, it's true. Probably more evil. Colombia should be a paradise to live in, which is true. Colombia is a beautiful place. But let's be realistic. It's full of communists, socialism, and resentment. Gustavo Petro has a son living in Canada as a political refugee. Where the fuck is that guy? Pedro Codorba was once Canada's political refugee. Okay, so evil, and just kind of goes on. And be strong, defend your freedom. Thank you, truckers. So I didn't realize Gustavo Petro's kid is living in Canada as a political refugee. His dad's the president of Colombia. That shows how corrupt the political class is, which leads me to what I really started off with the conservatives in their messaging. And by the way, I tried to help them, but of course they don't listen because they know everything except how to win elections. When I mentioned their messaging, it's the liberals. It's not the liberals. It's the political class. It's the global political class. These global NGOs and organizations. And I'm going to talk more about this. My last business, the business I had that I sold many years ago, was it was on a university campus, and we printed a lot of these reports that certain university professors were preparing for the government, for the city of Toronto, and they were just laced with biased nonsense. And I would see these reports, and it would just infuriate me that, one of them was bike lanes. It was a justification how everybody in the city wants bike lanes. No, nobody in the city wants bike lanes. Oh, and that relates to the Danforth, for those who are living in Toronto. We have a festival this year, every year, that's been going on for 30 some odd years, called the Taste of the Danforth, where all the restaurants take over the street. They shut it down to traffic, and it's just restaurants, and it's a party and whatever. And it was canceled this year. Very interesting reason why it was canceled. I spoke to a couple of the business owners in the area, and it's quite funny. It's another example of the left eating the left. Okay, anyways, way too long. I was trying to make this only 20 minutes. We're closing up on 42 minutes. Okay, I'm going to stop now. I hope all of you are going to have an awesome day. Don't let all the negativity and rhetoric affect your life. Put on the positive filter. Focus on all the good and positive things that are occurring in your life. The weather's beautiful. We have this heat wave, which somehow the news thinks is a negative. I think it's amazing. It's the best thing. And just enjoy your day, and don't sweat the small stuff, because all of this, the big stuff that we got to deal with, it's a marathon, and it's going to take years and years to fix bit by bit, and we will. So you might as well enjoy your life in the meantime and focus on all the positive stuff. So thank you, everybody, for coming and joining. I'm going to do another one tomorrow. And then I don't know about Wednesday, but I will talk more about that tomorrow. And I'm going to I have a meeting I'm going to have to start preparing for soon. So thanks, everybody. I got to go. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.